A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Numan Nanvani, and on behalf of the Chairman and Economic Planning Board for the UAE, I welcome you all today. We would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules and joining us today. Today's session is a part of a four-part webinar series on Canadian immigration that will explore opportunities for the Jamaat in various sectors interested in Canadian immigration. The series will provide a broad overview as well as specific program details using case studies where the Jamaat can relate their ambitions and goals on a personal level. These webinars will also provide tools and resources for searching official information and will touch base on all the myths and misconceptions of the Jamaat regarding Canadian immigration. The agenda for today's webinar will be an introduction of the speaker, followed by his presentation. Once the presentation is over, there will be a question and answer session, and finally, a closing note. We urge every one of you to ask questions by typing them out in the questions and answers window on your screen. You can do this by clicking on the Q&A icon on the taskbar. The speaker will be answering as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. Once again, thank you for joining us today. A little bit about the speaker. It is a privilege to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. Minhas Ali is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, RCIC, and is a founder of Think Ahead Immigration based in Toronto, Canada. He specializes in the economic stream of Canadian immigration program, including business investors, entrepreneurs, startup visas, work permits, and study permits. He is also a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants, CAPIC. Minhas holds a Master of Education from the University of Melbourne, Australia. He has worked with several international NGOs and non-profit organizations in Canada, Australia, and Pakistan. In his voluntary capacity, he works with the Aga Khan Council for Canada and the Aga Khan Council for Ontario and advises them on immigration matters within the Jamaat. Once again, thank you, Minhas, for giving us your valuable time, and I now hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Numan, for your kind introduction, and a very good day to everyone participating from around the world. Let me begin something very interesting story. I wanted to talk about something that is very personal to me. I wanted to take you all to the evening of December 28, 2011. This is the day when a family from Pakistan arrives in Canada at the Edmonton International Airport. It was about minus 15 degrees outside, and mind it was their first entry to Canada. After verification of all the documents, the officer at the airport asked the adult male about his work experience. And this person explains about previous work with international NGOs that he's done before. The discussions were so interesting and so amusing to the officer that it took almost an hour for the conversation to go on. By that time, the officer realized and apologized that it has taken way longer in terms of conversation. The officer takes this family to the taxi stand and sees them off. The family sit in the taxi, reaches to the Edmonton downtown location. The driver of the taxi takes out all the baggage and leaves it to the entrance of the location. At that time, the taxi driver says that since you are visiting for the very first time to Canada, I wanted to give you a gift that he gave us in the form of free ride, which was about $75 at that time. He sees us off, he wishes us, and give us a big smile. That was the story when I came with my family in Canada in 2011. I wanted to take a pause over here so that participants can understand the motivation, the passion behind these incidents that has impacted me and my family living in Canada, and how we as Canadians work and behave in different capacities. Let's now jump onto today's agenda. There's a lot to cover today. So we are going to start off with what are the major reasons to come to Canada. And if you're considering Canadian immigration as one of the options, we're going to walk through with some of those reasons and considerations. Then we're going to take towards the other side of the coin, that why Canada is continuously looking for more immigrants. What are those fundamental reasons behind asking for more immigrations? Then we will take a deep dive into the immigration programs. And trust me, participants, it's going to be a lot of work for you and for me. So please bear with me. We're going to do an extensive coverage of a lot of programs, from federal programs to provincial nominee programs. And some of you might have been having a confusion about what are these programs, but we'll hang on tight and we are going to go there. Then in the end, we're going to cover some myths and misconceptions, how to protect oneself from the scams and the fraud that happens so frequently. In the end, we will end off with the Q&A session. And I am really, really excited to be part of and presenting this presentation. As Noman has indicated, that today's session is focused on a general, broad overview of the Canadian immigration programs. The remaining 3 immigration programs are more geared towards industry and sector-specific programs. The dates are there, and you will have an opportunity to enroll yourself for those sessions as well, if you would like to get more specific information. As a part of recognizing the Indigenous rights in Canada, I would like to acknowledge the land that I'm living and working on. I'm presenting this from my home in Toronto, which is the traditional territory of the peoples of Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and Haudenosaunee. I'm grateful and blessed to be able to live and work in such a beautiful land. Since there are so many participants from the community who are attending this webinar, it was important for me to just give a little bit of a sense of the institutional setup in Canada. So there is a National Council for Canada that is being supported by 6 regional councils across the wide land of Canada. There are 2 Smiley centers, one in Vancouver and the other one is in Toronto. We have delegation of Ismaili Imamat and the Global Center for Pluralism based in Ottawa. The Aga Khan Museum and Aga Khan Park based in Toronto, and the Aga Khan Garden, the latest development, the latest construction that is based in Alberta. I will also be providing some institutional links where Jamaati members and the other community members can access the resources that is available for the community members and for those individuals who are coming and settling their life in Canada. They are wonderful resource, and there's a lot of work that's being done by the volunteers. So you should check it out, those resources, and the links for those resources will be are available at the end of the presentation. So let's start with some of the main factors that when you're considering immigration, what are the factors that one should consider to immigrate to Canada? The first and foremost important thing is the quality of life indicator. So Canada has been ranked as #1 in 2021 in the quality of life ranking across different platforms. And one of those reasons that it has been provided as one of the best quality of life is because of its world-class education, universal healthcare system, driven and entrepreneurial friendly environment, and the systems that's been established over here, the support that's been available, the natural environment and the water that is out available. It is important, many people do not understand perhaps, is Canada is the only G7 country that offers the parents' sponsorship programs. And last but not the least is the Canadian passport, the powerful document that allows individual to travel across the frontiers and explore their passion. So that is, in my opinion, one of the few reasons to consider to immigrate to Canada. Now let's talk about other side of the coin, that why Canada is looking for immigrants. And the first and foremost important reason is the, the land size of Canada is humongous. Canada is the second largest country in the world. And you can see the circles are trying to demonstrate the comparison of some of the countries. And you can see that Canada is 3 times bigger than India, 11 times bigger than Pakistan, and 125 times bigger than UAE region. So this is important to keep in mind. And Canadian population is only 38 million people. So imagine the amount of the land size that is available out there and the number of people living in Canada. That's the first factor. The second one is Canadian population, as I mentioned to you, is 38 million. Out of 38 million people, 25% of them are now aging, and they're aging faster. The Canadian capabilities to produce new babies versus seniors is incredibly low. And the comparison I have created, as you can see, the population pyramid on your screen, that is a population pyramid of Nigeria. What I would like to do is to just highlight some of the things that you can see in Nigeria. The younger population, you can see these areas. Sorry about that. There you go. So you can see, I want you to focus on the number of children that is in the country of Nigeria and number of seniors age individuals that are living in Nigeria. And I wanted to take you this population pyramid to the second one, where you can see this one. And you can see this is the Canadian population pyramid. The major difference, now I will go back again to see how many children are in the population of Nigeria and how many seniors are there as compared to Canada. We have more seniors than the younger population. And this is concerning. For those individuals who understand the economics through population, they could fairly understand that this is a bigger concern. And it's not only Canada, the developed countries are experiencing the same phenomena across the world. So this is the second reason through which Canada is looking for more immigrants. The third important consideration is, how do Canadians feel about immigration? According to the survey conducted in 2020, the sentiments of people around immigration is being asked. And the survey results tell us very clearly, 84% of the Canadians think that the immigration brings a positive economic impact on Canada, which is really encouraging. Now, this was all about what are the reasons to consider and why you should consider for coming to Canada for the immigration purpose if you are considering Canadian immigration. Now let's take a deep dive into the Canadian immigration system itself, that how does it work overall? I wanted to highlight a few things over here. The executive authority is IRCC, which stands for Immigrations, Refugees, Citizenship Canada. This is a federal authority which has the executive authority. Anyone who enters Canada, that has to go through with the executive authority approval from IRCC. Now, you might have heard about two types of things. One is the programs that are managed by IRCC, and the other are the programs that are managed by provincial nominee provinces, which are known as provincial nominee programs. Some of you may have already heard about that. These are some of the examples that has been given over here. FSWP, which is a federal skilled worker program, is one of the programs that is available. And that program is created by the federal authority, which is IRCC. But on the other side of it, federal authorities also have given the permission to individual provinces of Canada to start creating their own immigration programs. But remember, development of those programs is given to the provincial authorities. However, the executive powers is in the hands of IRCC. So when some individuals who apply to the provincial nominee programs, so they have two tiers to meet with. First, they need to meet the provincial economic requirements of that program first. Once they meet that requirement, then they move their application and they take their nomination letter from the province and apply to the IRCC, because IRCC is the executive authority that allows an individual either to come to Canada or not. So keeping that notion in mind, that Canadian immigration programmatic level is being divided amongst two authorities. One is a federal, the other one is a provincial. We're going to take a deep dive into that. So I would want you to take a step back, relax, and start looking into this comparison, because this is going to be quite a lot for some of individuals. But my purpose is to introduce you to the numerous opportunities that is available in the Canadian immigration platform. Now, I will start off with the federal immigration programs. As you can see the table, what I have tried to enlist on the table. So what we have done is we are introducing some poll questions so that we can continue to engage the participants and want to know, what do you feel about these questions and what is your response against that? So the question says, is Express Entry an immigration program? And the answer is either yes or no. Okay, there you go. This is perfect, actually. So 88% of the people think that Express Entry is an immigration program. I'm sorry to say this, but this is incorrect. People who have said, 16% of the individuals who are saying that Express Entry is not an immigration program, that is correct. So the answer to the question is Express Entry is not an immigration program. And it's interesting, yeah? So it is interesting for everyone to understand that Express Entry is just an intake management tool, intake management system, which is an AI-based, machine learning-based system that is being created by the Government of Canada. It is not an immigration program. People get confused with that, and that's why now it is important. Most of the people under Express Entry intake management system, they apply for foreign skilled worker program if you are living outside Canada. That's what majority of the people apply under for the professionals. If you are, if you have some specific skills trade, then you apply under FST, Federal Skills Trade Program. But you also, the same program that you apply for FSWP, exactly in the same format, the intake management system is under Express Entry umbrella. So not all the programs are under Express Entry umbrella. Express Entry is an umbrella that caters to for the Federal Skills Worker Program, Federal Skills Trade Programs, and Canadian Experience Class, and some of the PNPs only. Not all the programs are under the umbrella of Express Entry. So keep that was an interesting poll question, and that would be an eye-opener for the participants who are interested to know more about immigration and how their information is shaped based on the information on social media and other platforms that we look into. So let's get into these programs one by one. So here, as I was explaining, that on this side of the chart, I am trying to explain some of the eligibility factors. These factors are the primary minimum eligibility criteria factors. These are the factors that one has to meet in order to be eligible to be part of that program. So what I'm, and there, how many programs I have mentioned over here is you can see Federal Skilled Worker Program, which is the first one. The second column talks about the Federal Skilled Trade Program. This is for those individuals who are in the skilled trades and training professions. The third one is the Caregivers Program. The fourth one is Atlantic Immigration Program. And the fifth one is a Rural Northern Immigration Program. It is important for me to highlight about that whether these programs are points-based or not. Many people come across in my professional career, they come across with the understanding that Atlantic Immigration Program is not a points-based, or Rural Northern Immigration Program is not a points-based program. Well, that is incorrect. Well, the Caregivers Program is the only one that does not have any points requirement. And whenever we are saying that any program is the points-based program, meaning that there is a competition, pool of candidates are part of that program, and whoever is going to have the highest scoring will be able to crack into the immigration and will be offered for the immigration nomination. That's how the Canadian immigration programs, for the most part, works. It's very competitive. It's most of the time it's points-based, meaning there are factors that you can increase the points by the passage of time, by the passage of working towards your language skills. And those are the factors that I am actually highlighting over here. That what is the minimum IELTS requirement for Federal Skills Worker Program? Okay. There is a requirement of CLB 7. Now, I'm sure that many people would not know much about what is CLB 7 stands for. So first of all, CLB stands for Canadian Language Benchmark. And this is the Canadian standard of when an individual applies and appears into the IELTS examination or any other approved English language testing or French language testing, they are given the equivalency based on that CLB benchmark standards. So the minimum requirement to be eligible to be part of FSWP, this program, is CLB 7. Now it would be interesting for you that if you go on to further, so CLB 4 and 5 is required, CLB 4 and 5 is required for the individuals who belong to the skilled trade occupations. And again, it would be the truck drivers, the plumbers, the electricians. These are those individuals, they would fall under FST. And the Canadian immigration system and the government knows that skilled trade individuals might not necessarily have the proficiency, higher proficiency of English language skills, but that does not, the Canadian government does not discourage such individuals to apply. The minimum requirement over here is relatively very low in FST as compared to Federal Skilled Worker Program. If you move on to further right, Atlantic Immigration Program has the minimum requirement of CLB 4. And RNIP, Rural Northern Immigration Program, they have actually 3 further sub-programs. One is for the low skill, one is for the high skill. So depending upon which skill set that you belong to, there is the language requirements respectively that needs to be met. So this is about the language requirement across these 5 programs. I repeat that these are not the exhaustive list of the factors. These are not the exhaustive list of the programs. There are more than 80 immigration programs available to come to Canada and make Canada your permanent home. Just for the comparison reason, I have tried to make a good comparison so that um, participants will have a broader, greater understanding of how these programs vary and differ from one program to the other. This is also an eye opener, perhaps, for some of the participants who might have been hearing that there is no language requirement at all in the Canadian immigration. And regarding that, I wanted to take a pause about the language requirement, and I would request Noman to share an interesting poll question about the language requirements.
So the question
So
is,
it's, yeah.
yeah, okay, if you're born in a country where English is the first language, do you still have to take the IELTS exam?
We can see that majority of you think that a native English speaker would be required to take the IELTS exam. Yes, that is true, right? Uh, and then keep in mind that there is no exemption. If you are born in UK, if you're born in Australia, and if you want to immigrate to Canada, you will be required to appear in the English language testing or French language testing for your immigration purposes. Then let's go to the education factors. Okay, let's go to the education factors, the minimum education requirement. And again, I keep that in mind. What some of you may think who knows way more than this basic information about these programs would think that, okay, 12 years of education in FSWP will not give us this strong standing. I completely get it, and that is very true. It is the more higher education you have, the more chances of you being in the top of the pool of candidates. That's how it is. It is important to understand that distinction. There is no basic requirement for the education in the FST program. There's a minimum of 14 years of education required for the caregivers. And when I say 14 years of education, it means grade 12, intermediate, A levels, or high school, plus 2 years of diploma, or 2 years of graduation program, or 3 years of graduation program, as it happens in many parts of the world. So those things will combine as the 14 years of education. For Atlantic and RNIP, it's only the 12 years of education is the mandatory requirement. Proof of funds, yes, in certain cases, we do need proof of funds. FSWP requires that. And FST, depending upon if you have the job offer given from the Canadian employers, you don't need the proof of funds in that program. In caregivers program, that is not required because job offers are mandatory if you apply as a caregiver program. Atlantic Immigration Program and RNIP program, yes, it is mandatory. The proof of funds that is required over here versus in these two programs vary greatly. So the dollar value of showing the proof of funds is very different. In the Atlantic and RNIP program, because their requirements are attached to the mandatory job offer, the proof of funds are relatively 1/3 amount that as compared to the foreign federal skilled worker program, FSWP. Let's move on to the age points. There are programs that has age points. There is no age points, whether you are 45, 55, 25, it does not really matter. Minimum experience required, for FSWP, 1 year of minimum experience is there. This one is tricky. One has to understand that those individuals who's applying under federal skills trade, there has to be a minimum of 2 years of experience prior to the 5 years prior to the application. So when you apply under FST, you need to have at least 2 years of experience in your baggage from that day prior to the 5 years if you reverse it. That's the mandatory requirement for FST. For caregivers, at least 2 years Atlantic and RNIP, it's 1 year requirement. The job offer, in many cases, the job offers are not mandatory. In some cases, well, I would say that in more and more programs are geared towards meeting the specific economic requirements, meeting the specific skills gap requirements. So Canada is working towards more working with the Canadian stakeholders to find out that what are they are looking for that they are unable to find inside Canada. And based on that, they are opening the new programs, new opportunities are coming up based on that. And because of that, there is a consensus between the Canadian employers, the Canadian society, and the Canadian government is that the individual who immigrate to Canada, for the most part, they should have the jobs, for the most part, in their hands so that they can come and fill those skills gap in Canada so that economically it is more viable. And from the immigrant perspective, it is more suited that these individuals come to Canada and start off with their professional career right off from the get-go. So this was the comparison of some of the federal immigration programs. I'll take another slide for the federal immigration program. Well, two more slides actually. The next one is about self-employed. The self-employed, by the layman's definition, it is anyone who's working for himself or herself. That is the understanding about the self-employed. But according to the federal immigration program, this is the name of the program. So keep that in mind that we are not talking about a general understanding about the self-immigration, about the self-employed. Rather, we have to follow the specific definition and understanding about what the self-employed means. This is for those individuals who have the experience in cultural or athletics activities. Now, you might wonder, someone would say that, Minhas, I have a friend who works in the in my country where a person performs any performs a cultural dance, that is considered as an individual who would fall under these categories, provided if that individual follows these set of skills, these set of points. This is mandatory. But would that individual who's, let's say, a Kathak dancer or an Arabian musician who has that cultural artistic skills, who might not be very qualified, who might not be world renowned, which is okay, as long as they are in their own region, they are performing very well and they can demonstrate this as an experience. Though that demonstration of evidence of the work is quite a lot, but if those genuine cases who are under that special occupations, then definitely they can fall under the category of self-employed immigration programs. And let me quickly walk through with that what it requires. In terms of the eligibility factor, again, it's a points-based. So remember that if one individual is applying from one part of the world and the other person is applying from the other part of the world, they both are competing. It's an international competition right now. So that's how the candidates are being picked up. So there is an English language requirement, CLB5, education has to be 12 years, age points, of course, if you're younger, you get more points, experience requirement, minimum 2 out of 5 is there. Job offer, no, there is no job offers required for that because they are, by definition of law, they are self-employed and they have the ability, a proven ability that once they come to Canada, they will be able to establish themselves as self-employed and successfully integrate with the Canadian community and add the mosaic of culture in Canada. That's the whole purpose of this program of self-employed under cultural activities. The same goes with the athletic activities as well. And you can see the same requirements are there. Now, athletics could be, a cricketer is playing in a community level might not be the right candidate for this purpose. But a cricketer who is playing at the national level and who wants to immigrate to Canada, then of course he should choose or she should choose this program as opposed to going through with the federal skilled worker program. So this is this is the program that most of the people are less aware of, and it is important for me to walk through about some of the basic eligibility criteria about this program. Let's move into the third slide of federal immigration programs. Now, this one is about startup visas, and I know that many individuals from the region, from UAE region and Gulf countries, they are mostly well aware of startup visas. I thought that it would be important for me to just take a quick stab at it over here in the presentation so that people can understand what it means about startup visas and what is it for and who is it for. So these are those individuals who are entrepreneurs in our layman's term, who are entrepreneurs who are who wants to bring some innovation and who are looking for an opportunity at a bigger scale, not just app development, not just creating one website. No, this program is not for those individuals. For example, an app that will be a game changing for the Canadian healthcare space or the global healthcare space or climate change related, anything that is more innovative based. And that's why it says very clearly that it has to be something that is innovative, that creates jobs for Canadians and can compete at the global stage. So these are the startup visas. And for this, of course, there's a host, of other stakeholders that gets involved with the individual. So for example, you need to get the letter of support from the designated organization. And that is what is mandatory required. And up to 5 individuals can apply for this program. That's the maximum reach for that. It has to be a qualifying business. Not all businesses would fall under this category, right? But it has to be the qualifying business. The shareholding requirements are there that if there are 5 individuals who are coming to Canada under this, if all of them gets approved, each of them has to be 10% of their minimum shareholding of that company. Experience, well, there is no experience by law is required, but the demonstration and the evidence that you need to demonstrate that you are going to be more likely to be successful in that new venture is based on your previous initiatives and previous work and previous learnings and the knowledge, what you are bringing in, how you're going to be set yourself up for the success. The language requirements is CLB5, which is relatively quite low. Proof of funds is required so that Canadian government wanted to know that whether you'll be able to establish yourself in Canada while you are going to embark on a new journey of starting up your own new venture. This is the end of the federal immigration programs. And I wanted to take a pause over here and I wanted to give you a little bit of time to think. And in the meantime, I wanted to, I would like to ask Noman to share one poll question so that it would be a little bit of a different perspective before we dive into the provincial nominee programs.
Want to launch another interesting question? So, which is your preferred country for immigration? Over to you,
Oh,
Minal.
wow, the vast majority wants, well, that is very humbling to know that the majority of the participants wants to make Canada as their home. It is an exciting place to be, for sure. Let's move into the provincial nominee programs now. Now, provincial nominee programs or provincial immigration programs, this side is a little bit busier as well because I wanted to give the participants a broader a big overarching bird's eye view of how provincial nominee programs work and what are their uh, dynamics and what are the reasons, some of the requirements. So let's get into it. Again, the format is pretty much the same. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see these are all the eligibility factors. One thing that I have added into this slide is particularly this factor. This is not the factor, but this is an information for people to know about it, that what is it meaning of number of programs? So let me talk about Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, OINP, this one. There are 9 immigration programs. As I mentioned to you in my previous slides when I was explaining about provincial nominee programs, the purpose of it is to fill in the specific skills gap within the province. So there are 9 immigration programs have been developed by the Ontario Ministry because they find that there are many gaps in the development, in the economic development, and they want to fill in those gaps by creating these programs. So 9 of those programs have been created by Ontario. Similarly, Saskatchewan, SINP, have 6 immigration programs. And I'm talking about all of them, all of the programs that each of those provinces offer. YCP, probably a new one, a new term for many of you, is the Yukon Community Pilot Program. So this is, this is something that we are going to talk about it, while we are going to take a quick look at it. So I'm not going to go again in the same details. You can see and you can, understand that how the entire immigration programs across different provinces have different requirements. And it is interesting to know some of these dynamics. So it is important when I mentioned over here that yes and no. So depending upon which of these 9 programs we are talking about, each of the program has their own minimum requirements. And in some of the programs, there are points for the age, but in other programs, there is none. There are no points for the age. So if you are even 55 or 65, for example, business investors, well, there is no point or there is no discouragement for those individuals because the factors, eligibility factors are different for those programs and those individuals. So you may understand that, what are some of those dynamics. I wanted to also highlight over here about the occupations. OID, what I meant by OID is occupation in demand. The nomenclature of OID itself has been used by not all of the provinces. They have used different nomenclature, but the purpose is that high demand occupations or occupations in demand. So for the ease of this presentation, I've used a consistent word of OID, meaning occupations in demand. So the provincial programs always look for the specialized occupation individuals. That's why many individuals specialize in either finance or healthcare or business or any other specialty. They have a higher chances to get through the Canadian immigration pathway through the PNPs as opposed to going through the route of federal skilled worker program. That's a federal program, right? And those are the reasons because there are some edge and advantages that these individuals receive when they apply through these especially high demand occupations. I wanted to take a quick look into YCP, and I've written EMP driven. EMP, I meant to say employer driven. It is very, very important. There has been a lot of misinformation out there through many social media outlets that it's very, very easy to get to Yukon Community Pilot. You don't need job, you don't need English, you don't need this, you don't need that. You just need to book a ticket and come to Yukon and start living in Canada. That is completely incorrect. And I would highly recommend the participants that at the end of this presentation, the resources are given there, official information is given there. Whenever you hear any information, please go look out for the official and authentic information out there. So it is not, this program, the Yukon Community Pilot Program, is not the occupation in demand. It is employer driven. If employer is ready to move forward, giving the employment offer, and they're looking for a specific candidate, then this can be moved forward. But there is a process that is known as a nomination process is there. So one needs to take a quick, not a quick, in fact, take a deep dive into such programs before committing to any funds for or any planning for such programs. I wanted to take a quick look into the Business Investor Program based on the request we received. So Business Investor is not a federal program. It's a provincial nominee program. I've done a comparison between 3 provinces, 3 programs, out of which 2 programs are of Ontario region. You can see that it is also points based, but the factors for the points is based on investment amount, how much investment is required, the net worth of the individual who's applying and who's interested in that program. The business experience counts a lot, minimum 2 years out of 5 years. The minimum shareholding requirement in a business investment opportunity has to be 33.33%. IELTS would be interesting to know that there is no requirement for this program of IELTS. It's optional. If you give IELTS and whatever the score you receive, you're going to get the points out of it, but it's not mandatory. Education, if you don't have grade 10, that's completely fine. It's optional. It's not required. Because if you try to understand, the majority of the eligibility factors are based on these areas of eligibility criteria. Age points, there is no age points. A 25-year-old will be treated as same as 65-year-old. Management, that is a mandatory requirement. Many individuals saying that, we have a business set up back home in our home country. We wanted to establish a business over here, and we are going to continue to operate the business from our home country while this business is being established by our employees. Well, one thing is not allowed. You can continue to have the business back from your back home country, but for the day-to-day management of the business, you have to be present in Canada. You can travel, there is no restriction about it, but day-to-day management should be from the Canadian land. There is a minimum requirement of how much jobs you're going to create, at least if you want to be eligible under this program. Let's move into the myths and misconceptions. I've tried to enlist the list of those myths and misconceptions so that participants can understand the magnitude of misinformation that is out there. Sometimes it's not just the misinformation, sometimes it's just the language barrier becomes a big barrier and leads towards misunderstandings. So the first one, Canadian immigration is quite easy. Well, no, that's incorrect. It's not quite easy. It requires you to plan, develop a strategy, and work towards it. The one statement that I use in this profession is that you should not start the race until you have the clear sight of the finishing line. That is extremely important. What we know in this immigration industry, that people just get into the program without knowing that what is the end of the finishing line looks like. It's important. Second, express entry is a lucky draw. IELTS is not required for Canadian immigration. These are all myths and misconceptions. The interesting one was the fourth one, messages and ads on social media platforms are true. Please, I cannot emphasize the participants to educate more and more through authentic resources. Validate all the WhatsApp messages, the screenshots that you receive. Find out more specific information from the proper, authentic information places. If you receive a nomination from a province, then you'll not be able to travel at all for 2 to 3 years. That's incorrect. You can travel. There is no restriction for the travel. On the flip side of it, if you receive the nomination from a province, then you will leave that province within just few months and settle in the province of your own choice, the other province. That is misconception. That is incorrect. That has the legal ramification, and your permanent residency could be revoked if you do so. An international student, temporary foreign worker, or even permanent resident can sponsor their parents as soon as they arrive in Canada. No, there is a requirement that you need to meet before you sponsor your parents. Canadian immigration invites highly skilled individuals only. No, and we have gone through with some of the chart today that that's incorrect. Getting a genuine job offers from Canadian employers either too easy or impossible. Both are incorrect. Jobs and opportunities for potential immigrants are limited. I can go on the list of the individuals that are in the public service, that are in the private sector, and they are doing, and they've been doing phenomenal, and they are immigrants. Job offers will be furnished without interview and background check by the employers. This seems too fishy. One needs to be more cautious and more alert about these kind of scams. Hiring an authorized representative will guarantee the approval of application. Incorrect. I wanted to take you to a 60-second video clip, and then I will walk through with some of the strategies that participants can protect themselves from the scam and fraud. Let's see this video.
I want to immigrate to Canada.
Oh, well, you've come to the right place. Work visas, family applications, approvals, I can guarantee them. Fast, fast, fast. And I take cash.
You take cash.
Don't be the victim of a disappearing act. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you use an unauthorized representative, your application may be refused and you could be defrauded. Each year, Citizenship and Immigration Canada approves hundreds of thousands of immigration applications from those who use immigration representatives. But only some people are authorized to charge a fee to represent you on a Canadian immigration application. Find out who is an authorized representative and who can legally represent you by visiting our website.
This is an official video from the Canadian government that how one can protect themselves from the scam and the fraud. I wanted to take a pause and ask a poll question that is regarding an authorized and unauthorized representative to the participants, just to get a quick familiarity about what do they feel and how do they feel about that.
Well, it started. Do you know the difference between authorized and unauthorized representative?
Wow, this is interesting. Okay, just for the clarity that an authorized representative, and I will come to that in the next slide. So thank you, Noman, for doing that. What are some of the strategies that the participants can protect themselves from such scams? The most important thing is to educate yourself. Use authentic and official sources of information only. Don't get into the social media, the YouTubes, the WhatsApp messages, the Facebook posts. Please avoid that. Use only authorized representative for immigration needs. If you want, then use authorized representative. There is not a requirement that you have to use the authorized representative, but if you need a guidance, then use the authorized representative. An authorized representative, according to the Canadian law, are the licensed immigration consultants, which are known as RCICs, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants, and the Canadian lawyers. The rest of any other lawyers from any part of the world or immigration license holders from any other country other than Canada. Okay, if the person assisting your application is not putting his or her name on, as a representative, then he is or she is not authorized. So this is an indicator for the participants, whoever is actually going to someone to seek an assistance and you don't know, and if that person is avoiding to put the name in the formal application, that's a clear sign that that is he or she is not authorized representative. And you can find out the registry of who's authorized in the regulatory registry website, which is available in the last tools and resources section. Avoid temptation of paying money just to be part of the pool of candidates in one of the immigration programs. I know this may sound that, okay, I just need to pay, for example, 2,000 dirhams, and that's just a small amount, but avoid doing that. Just, because these are the scam related work that happens a lot, and it is expanding. Get a complete assessment of possible pathways in advance, have a clear finishing line inside before starting the race. These are the two slides that I have created for the participants. These are all official information that they can find out about the Canadian immigration, about the CLB, about the education credential assessments, comprehensive ranking system, Ontario Immigration Nominee Program, Yukon, Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, fee list of federal immigration programs. Many people come across with asking the basic question about what is the fee. You can find out on the official website. Registry of authorized representatives is, you can click on this website and find out who is authorized and who is not. Alliances Canada is part of the Aga Khan Economic Planning Board Canada, and they do fantastic work by bringing together professionals, entrepreneurs together to share the best practices, mentoring, learn from each other, and grow together as a community. And any individual who's traveling to Canada, settling in Canada, and wants some comprehensive guide, who's received a permanent residency and wants a comprehensive guide about what needs to be done, this is the place. A settlement guide for Smiley newcomers, and that can be accessible on this link by the II Canada. So this will be available to the participants, and that's where I close off the formal piece of the presentation. And now over to you, Noman.
Thank you, Minas, for sharing your insights. The session was very informative, and hopefully it has given our participants some insights on how to migrate to Canada. It's now time for the Q&A. We have tried to answer a lot of questions while the session was going on. You can, I want to tell all our participants that we will be answering the questions relevant to this evening's topic. While we get some questions in the chat window on your screen, we just wanted to cover some top questions in a rapid fire round with Minas. So let's challenge Minas' knowledge on that. I hope, Minas, you're ready with that. Okay, very quickly.
I'm all in.
All right, the first question. Shall I prepare for IELTS? If yes, from where?
IELTS and CELPIP are the two acceptable English language tests. Whatever is available to you, you can give the test for the immigration purpose.
Thank you. What is the requirement of equivalency? This is especially in, I think, the credentials related.
So your education from back home, any part of the world, has to be Canadian equivalent. To do that process, you need to go through with one of the 6 education credential assessment agencies. The list of those are available in the tools resource slide, as well as if you can Google it officially and go to the official website, that can be found over there.
Okay, great, Minas. Is my master's eligible after my 2 years graduation?
Master's will be considered as a diploma if you have a 2 years bachelor's program.
Thank you. Is police verification important?
Yes.
What is the processing time for Canadian immigration?
Depending upon which program that you are interested in, it varies greatly depending upon the needs and what is the processing timelines of that program.
When can I bring my parents, and can I bring my parents with me?
You can bring your parents with you on a visitor visa if you have received a permanent residency, or even as a temporary resident when you receive an international student visa or a work permit visa, you can bring your parents after some time and apply for the visitor visa. In terms of the permanently bringing over here, that requires you to showcase your 3 years of income that you have made enough so that you can settle yourself and you can bring your parents and settle them as well.
All right, great, Minas. Is schooling free?
Schooling is free until grade 12.
Is medical free?
Medical basic universal healthcare system, yes, it is free, except for some, some extra, like eye care is not covered yet, dental care is not covered yet. Some of the medicines are not covered yet, but majority of the visits to the healthcare, to the hospitals are free.
All right, good. How many years I have to stay in Canada for the passport?
So the requirement is 1,095 days, meaning about 3 years after receive, 3 years you have to overall stay in Canada so that you can be eligible to apply for a Canadian passport.
All right, great. Now this is a scenario based, Minas. What is the balance bank balance I will have to show in my account if we are a family of 4, like husband, wife, and 2 kids?
Yeah, so depending upon which program you're applying for, as you recall that in my previous listing, I was comparing foreign Federal Skilled Worker Program, FSWP proof of funds requirement, and I was also doing the comparison of Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program requirements. So different programs have different requirements, and those requirements also vary depending upon the number of individuals who are part of it.
Okay, what if my application is rejected, be it visitor's visa, or sorry, not visitors, student visa, or in a previous case, my case is rejected?
Ideal situation is that if your student visa is rejected, the first step you should find out is to get the officer's notes, which is the GCMS notes. That's the first step that will enable you to understand what are the specific reasons of rejections that officer has put into the GCMS notes. And based on it, then you can reapply, answering all those concerns with documentary evidence in the reapplication.
All right, great. Another scenario-based question. If one spouse apply for a student visa, can another spouse go with them and kids, and can the spouse work?
You meant visitor visa?
For example, the wife applies for a student visa. Can the husband and kids go with them, with the wife, and can the husband go and work over there?
Absolutely correct.
They can?
Yes, they can. International student, the principal applicant, the spouse of the principal applicant in the case of international student will also apply for the open work permit. Officially, it's allowed in Canada, and the respective children or child will apply for the study permit under that international student visa category. They all are eligible, they can apply, and they all can come together. The principal applicant, the wife, would be starting her studies in college or university, while the husband can officially work with the open work permit, and the child or children can go officially to the Canadian schools, any of the Canadian schools where they live in that area.
All right.
And they don't need to pay. They don't need to pay any fee for that. It's important to tell that.
That's one of the very common questions. Thank you for answering that comprehensively. A different one: how climate change impacted Canada's snow-covered and chances of immigration? I mean, that's one of the questions. I wanted to answer, but then you're the expert.
Well, climate change. So of course, climate change is impacting globally. Immigration is, in one way, it's increasing because of the more focus towards climatic impact in Canada, particularly the wildfires, the increased concern about the Atlantic ice melting. Those are the concerns through which Canadian government really wants to address them proactively, and hence they are increasing those specialized areas of immigration programs.
All right, great, Minas. That was a good answer. All right. One thing we know, a lot of people have thought about it, that there are advertisements coming on social media asking to pay 40,000 CAD, and they will pool investors and help you to start a business in Canada, and will get you the PR. Once you get your PR, all the money paid is your expense. What's that?
Remember, I'm not going to answer this specific question because that will go against the contradictory messages. But what I would say that think logically. I would ask participants to think thoroughly. What is the purpose of Canadian immigration and why and how the individuals are coming to Canada? And what is the purpose and the goal of it? Is to advance yourself and to advance Canadian economic interests. That's the goal. And if that goal has been put behind through these, perhaps unwanted and perhaps illegal, shortcuts, then one needs to think twice before taking those steps in that direction.
All right, great. What does job offer mean? I mean, that's one of the common questions. Does it mean that we only need an offer letter from the employer, or do we need documents from the employer for the visa?
So job offer is a Pandora box. I wanted to start off with that, answering this question. Job offer does not just mean that you have a job offer letter on a letterhead stating from the CEO or the company saying that you have been hired. That's your title, that's your job offer, that's your starting date, that's what your responsibilities are, and we're going to give you these many of it. That piece of paper is in 98%, it's of no value into the Canadian immigration side. So remember, there are now, depending upon that the job offer is given under which program, under which region. So Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program that became a permanent program, the registered employers, I repeat, the registered employers who have registered themselves with the Atlantic Immigration Program, they can offer a job offer without having additional step known as labor market impact assessment, LMIA. I did not cover it today, the LMIA, because it's a whole lot of different conversation, and in itself would take more than 60 minutes for that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And for the participants' consumption, there are 80 different pathways in terms of Canadian immigration in Minas. I've learned this from you. So one session is not going to be ample enough. But one very relevant question, and probably a little bit of demo required here as well, that the lady says, I'm a teacher and my husband is into freelancing, self-employed. I have already submitted my profile with the pool. My total point score is 350. What would be the best option for us? We are a family of four. I understand this is a specific question. We will not be able to cover this up. But how about if you just open the CRS calculator for everybody's consumption, just to see how quickly you can calculate where do you stand?
Yes, let me just open it up, the sharing of that screen.
And while participants, the Minas is sharing the CRS calculator, please note this was just an introductory session. There are specific sessions which are going to come in. We can inform the dates again. Those are going to be announced as well. Those are very specific related to caregiver program, and Minas, what the other two are also there. So we will have more emphasis on those programs later on. Yeah, Minas, over to you.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Minas.
Absolutely, perfect. So I wanted to give a heads off to the participants that, first of all, what I just did to come to this website is I Googled it, but I made sure that which website do I click on. The CRS ranking system is available on many immigration consulting websites. Not necessarily they are updated or they are not updated, but I would always highly recommend that one should come to the official, either cic.gc.ca website or canada.ca website only. It's the comprehensive ranking system, and I am going to use this tool for the case that we are discussing. So what you mentioned is, what is your marital status, which is
Minas, we can simply take a case where the husband, wife are there, 2 kids are there, something like that. And just to give a time check, we are, another 10, 12 minutes left. We have already questions, so we'll try to answer them as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the answer to this question is no. Will your spouse or common law partner will come with you? Yes. How old are you? Let's say the age we make it to 32 years. What is the level of education? Let's say now bachelor's degree, it has to be very clear that what's written. So please do not confuse yourself with your bachelor's degree. So for example, I know in one of the countries in Pakistan, there are some bachelor's degree that are of 2 years in length, BCom and BA. And that is not equivalent to the bachelor's degree over here. Many people get confused. For that purpose, you need to click. If you have a BCom or BA from Pakistan, which is of 2 years in length, you should click 2-year program at a university, not the bachelor's degree. In this case, let's take that they have bachelor's degree, which is at least of 3 years or more. They do not have any Canadian degree. They have to have an English language. So assuming that their English language was less than 2 years old and they're speaking, let's put 6.5, listening 6 to 7, reading 6, writing 6, okay? Do they have any other language, meaning that are they good in other than English, which is French? Let's put not applicable. Work experience. It is important to understand this question, that the first question is about work experience in Canada. Now, assuming that they do not have any experience inside Canada, they have 0 or less than a year of experience. In the last 10 years, how many total years of foreign skilled work experience you have? So let's say the maximum points that you would get is 3 or more. So it does not really matter if you have 15 years of experience or not. Do you have a certificate of qualification from a Canadian province, territory, or federal body? Now, this certificate, many people get confused with what is the meaning of that certificate. So if you see, a little bit more specific details about some skills trades in Canada. So for example, I was talking about electricians, plumbers. There are some tradesmen's certifications that has extra points if you get it from Canada, from the authorized bodies in Canada. So let's put no over here for now. Additional points. Do you have a valid job offer supported by LMIA if needed? So that's why one needs to be very careful that which job offers need LMIA and which job offers are LMIA exempted. There is no other third way that you will receive the job offer that is neither LMIA exempted or LMIA has been approved of in the air, but you don't know what, you don't have any documentation and evidence of it. So that's a fishy thing that you need to be careful of. Let's put that they don't have a job offer. Nomination from any province, if they have it, this is the time that they would put it in yes. Let's say put yes in the nomination. Do you or your spouse, common law partner, if they wish to come to Canada, they have any sisters? Let's put no. Any spouse highest education? Let's put spouse highest education as master's degree, okay, randomly. In the last 10 years, is the spouse has worked inside Canada? No. English language, he's appeared. Let's put 7, let's put 7.5, let's put 5.5, and this one as 6. And this is where you click. This will give you a score of 927. And mind it, this 927, the major contributory factor was the 600 points, which was a provincial nominee. And that's why many individuals who are not eligible or whose points are very less to be picked up in the regular federal skilled worker program, so-called as express entry by many people, and they keep on waiting for a year and their profiles get expired, they try to go into the provincial nominee programs because once they get nominated, they straight away receive the 600 points, which increases the chances of them for sure in the next upcoming draw. So that's what the quick look at the CRS score and how you fill out those questionnaires.
Thank you, Minas.
Noman, over to you.
Yeah, sorry to rush you. We have a lot of questions, so probably we will not be able to answer all the questions, but yeah. So as an investor, money is enough or need any additional skills? That's one of the questions.
Well, you need to have either a business experience or previous senior management role. You need to be able to demonstrate that you can manage that business. That is the main criteria.
All right, great. How can we get a valid job offer?
How can we get a valid job offer? Well, the official websites of Atlantic Immigration Program, the RNIP programs, keep on posting that. On top of it, you need to reach out and be proactive, reaching out to these employers. Try to present yourself in such a unique form that you can stand out amongst the employers. Imagine that you are one of those candidates, and this email address that you are reaching out to the employers have the same email address is accessible to more than tens of thousands of candidates around the world, and they're doing the same. So come up with a strategy that will stand you out amongst the group of potential candidates.
Okay, thanks, Minas. For the participants' consumption again, this presentation is going to be shared through a platform. I'm going to update on that. And all the relevant links are already available, so you can refer to those links. There are a lot of specific questions related to individual profiles. We would not be able to answer it over here because that will not be of interest for other people. So we'll try to answer what are general questions. So another question is, are university years included in the 1095 days to receive a Canadian passport, Minas?
Repeat that, please.
Are university years, I mean, by the time we are studying, included in the 1095 mandatory days to receive a Canadian passport?
Half of your time that you spent in the university is considered in 1095 days.
All right, great. Is there a possibility that we should obtain PR but reside in Canada after 3 to 4 years?
No.
Okay. Am I eligible to make my profile in caregivers? I recently did my, no, this is a specific question, but since I started, so I'm going to finish. I recently did my IELTS, but my overall score is 6 in every component, but 5 in one component. Someone told me I cannot make my profile in express entry. By profession, I am a registered nurse and did my bachelor's and have 3.5 years of experience. Very specific question. I think we should skip this at the moment. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you for that. I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Minhas for his time and knowledge, to all our listeners for attending and making this webinar a success, and the institutions especially for supporting us. We hope that today's webinar will assist you in better understanding your options if you are exploring the possibility of migrating to Canada.